when you're done playing, there's no other way to create that like game day feeling, the rush of like competing, winning, losing. I went to my first horse race when I owned a horse, and I walked into the paddock, and I'm like, all of a sudden, I'm like, my skin doesn't feel right. I'm like, what's wrong? And then like the trainer talks to the jockey, and they talk about their plan. You're listening. You're like, yeah, like all right, like let's go. And then the jockeys get on the horse. They go out and they get them warmed up on the track, and then all of a sudden you're like ready to like rip your like clothes off and like this coming out of your skin. Like get in the gate. You want to get in the gate. It's like you're losing your mind.
Welcome back to the 11th Inning Podcast with Kolko and Zim. I'm Dan Kolko. This is Ryan Zimmerman. And Zim, here we go again.
Just rolling right along. Good show last week or 2 weeks ago, whatever it was. And ready to knock out some more fun stuff this week.
What do you think we're going to talk about more with Jason Werth on this podcast today? Baseball or horse racing?
Horse racing.
Yes. That's his life now.
It's the easiest question you've ever asked me.
He's obsessed.
It's fun. It's awesome to hear. And, I mean, like you said, he's obsessed. He's passionate about it. And I really look forward to talking to him about it, actually.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. But first, Zim, what do you got?
What do I got? You know what I want to talk about? You talked about James Wood last episode. I want to talk about CJ. Last year was quite a year for him. I mean, he was an all-star.
Yep.
Had a great year. Tough second half. Obviously, the stuff happened at the end of the year. But I just want to talk about how it seems like he's maturing, growing up a little bit. I think people forget how young he still actually is.
Yeah.
He's off to another good start. Defensively, he's playing better than he did last year. Not that he played bad last year, but I feel like he's learning the position of shortstop a little bit more. He's becoming a little bit more consistent. But the thing I notice is it really, truly seems like he's actually having fun out there. And not the fake fun that everyone does so they can put on their Instagram and say all this stuff. Like, he actually looks like he's enjoying it. And when your shortstop, your all-star shortstop can start doing that, I think it puts everyone else at ease. And, he's starting to work, I don't want to say harder, but he's getting his routine down. He's doing his ground balls. He's doing his cage work. I just feel like he's becoming more of a pro. And it takes time to learn how to do that. But, I'm happy for him. I think with the way last year ended, it could have gone a couple different ways.
Sure.
You go from being an all-star to having that happen at the end of the year. And I've said this plenty times, like, I'm not here to judge anyone. I made plenty of mistakes. I can say I for sure was out as late as he was a couple times, maybe more than a couple times.
It was a little safer for you guys back then.
It's just different. And I'm not saying what he did was right. And, what I am saying is most athletes, most players, if you're in your professional level for as long as he has a chance to be and you get there at a young age, you're going to make a couple mistakes. And the point of this is, you could go two different ways. You can say, oh, everyone's against me. I was an all-star. You're just making an example of me. Or you can say, you know what, probably wasn't the best idea. I have a really great opportunity in front of me. I'm an all-star at this age already. I have my whole career in front of me. I'm not going to say I'm going to take it a little bit more seriously, because he does take it seriously, but he's learned from the mistake. He's become better at everything this year, teammate, work ethic, it seems like he's trending up, and I'm happy for him. I'm proud of him, I think is probably a better word than happy for him, because, everyone has sort of a point in their career where it could go one way or the other, and I think that was sort of his point, and I'm just so proud that he's taken it and kind of gone with it. Obviously, he went through a little bit of the injury, but since he's come back, it's like, man, he's fun to watch. His at-bats are unbelievable now. I mean, he's working counts a little bit more.
Yeah.
He's taken a lot more pitches. We knew he had a chance to be a superstar, but I think this year so far we're kind of seeing him take a step forward. And I'm just really excited to see, the rest of this year for him.
One thing, too, that you mentioned in there is that it looks like he's having more fun, and it feels anecdotally to me, and you can certainly speak to it from experience and from being around guys, like when you're playing loose and when you're having fun, that's when it feels like guys are at their best and they're kind of freed up and able to perform better. So maybe it's more of a chicken and the egg sort of situation. Like, are you having fun and playing loose, which is allowing you to reach maybe a new level, or does it go the other way around? Who's to say? But it really does seem like when guys are able to let go of some of the stresses about, I need to perform to get this contract, or there's this type of expectation on me from a franchise perspective, and they just go play, that it can really be beneficial.
I think it's one of the biggest lessons that you learn is you can't control everything. The only thing you can control is to come to the field every day and work, come to the field every day and be a good teammate and be, like you said, have fun, be happy. This game's too hard to not have fun, to not enjoy success. And it is true what you said. I think when you have a group of guys that enjoy being around each other, that enjoy winning, that enjoy working together to get better, to win more games, you almost play with more confidence when you know your teammates are all on the same page with you and you guys are coming to the field every day to try and get better, to work together, and to try and win one game that night, and that's all that matters. And, it's just fun to see them smile and run around out there and joke around a little bit and just play free and loose, and I think let his talents take over. And it's he's got a lot of talents.
No doubt.
Yeah. So what do you got?
I got something that I stumbled across. We've got this huge hit podcast, Zim, but we're not the only ones.
There's other podcasts?
There's one or two other
I only
podcasts
listen
out
to
there.
this podcast.
Yeah, just on loop, constantly.
By myself. at
Heather's
home.
like, Ryan, it's enough
Yeah.
already.
The kids want to listen to, Taylor Swift, and nope.
11th
Podcast.
inning.
All day long. Pool podcast.
So I was browsing Instagram the other day. I'm not on the TikTok. I don't do that. That's a bridge too far for me. But I saw a podcast clip come up. It was a golf podcast featuring the PGA Tour player Siwoo Kim. And, I would not necessarily expect this out of a golfer, but I know that professional athletes sometimes, they want to get geared up for a game, for a big tournament, whatever the sport is. So they'll have some coffee, or they'll have a Red Bull or two, or whatever their energy drink of choice is. In this podcast interview, Siwoo Kim is talking about how before or during the Players' Championship, one of the 5 biggest events on the calendar, he was so caffeinated, not like abnormally so, that he took an Advil PM to calm himself down, to bring himself down a little bit, only to then, I guess, chase that with more Red Bull. So he went Red Bull, Advil PM, Red Bull during the final round of the Players' Championship.
He's walking the tightrope there.
Boy, is he.
What I would love to know when he teed off.
That's a
We could
great
probably get
that's a great
that.
question. He finished in the top 10.
Yeah, so he's late in the
He's
later
late
in the day.
And he was talking about the amount of coffee he consumes. He's like, I have, whatever he said, 3-4 cups before 1 p.m. And then I switched to Red Bull up until 9 p.m. And it was a very entertaining clip, but it got me thinking from a baseball perspective. Right. I've seen guys, I'm not in the clubhouse right before game time, but I see guys walk into the dugout with Red Bull that they're finishing up.
Yep.
And I was just kind of, laughing about that clip and wondering if you have any experiences with teammates that would really get after it on the caffeine standpoint, or if there was somebody that maybe, thrived on that.
So I got a lot of things right now. First of all, caffeinated for golf seems
That's what I'm saying.
awful. Like just
You're
being fired,
twitching,
being
standing
fired
over a
up
big
for
putt.
a 5-foot par putt with the twitchy hands doesn't seem ideal. Second of all, Siwoo, I believe, is Korean.
Yes, he is.
Some of our best friends are Korean.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to the Lees. The Koreans know how to get after it.
Do they?
Oh, yeah. karaoke, Korean barbecue. They have great time. So maybe he's recovering from the night before. Maybe, he's fired up. And not trying to say he does anything like that, but this could be. And third, it's changed a little bit now. I mean, people back in the day, man, I could go a lot of places at this stories. I mean, Max Scherzer would get more caffeinated on the days he didn't pitch.
Yeah, that checks out.
Yeah, we always said, like, the best day was when Max pitched because he didn't talk that day.
Yeah.
I mean, he was like, P4 or whatever? I mean, he was just throwing scoops of P4 in his mouth and swallowing
To then stand in the dugout.
To then yell at the other team, and honestly, sometimes us. Like, when we wouldn't get a hit, we'd come back in the dugout, and he'd be like, what are you doing, man? Like, and we're like, Max, get out of here.
Just shut up, bro.
Get out of here. But there's been a bunch of, I think there's been much said about that Boston Red Sox team with Millar. And
they had a shot before their playoff games.
I may or may not have participated in something like that with the guy we're going to be talking to later today, which involved Red Bull as well. So we could maybe bring that up. But nothing to prohibit the way we played. But yeah, I mean, we all have different types of levels where we want to be. I think, certainly at the beginning of my career in 2005, there was different things going around than what's in my career.
So for those who don't know, greenies were available to players back then.
I think they were just illegal when I started.
Okay, so those are amphetamines, basically.
Basically just Mexican diet pills that made your heart beat a million times a second.
And I've heard stories about there's 2 pots of coffee in the clubhouse. There's the straight pot of coffee, the regular, and then there's the greenie version.
And this was well before my time. Not well before, but before my time. So I can neither confirm nor deny that, but I've heard the stories like you have. But yeah, I mean, everyone has like their pregame rituals, their pregame drinks, of which everyone's level was higher, lower.
Whose was the highest?
That's what I was trying to think. I mean, I'm trying to think who used to get a ton of it. The problem is if you do a ton of it, like around the 5th or 6th inning,
there's
usually an epic crash. So you either have to reload.
Right.
But then the games would end at 11 o'clock, and then you're not going to sleep for forever. Right. So it's a slippery slope to try and toe that Siwoo Kim line where you're going Advil PM back to the caffeine.
Maybe he's on to something. I don't know.
He's playing pretty good.
He's playing great.
But yeah, there's a lot of that going on.
Yep. All right. Very good. Let's get to that guy now that you mentioned that we're going to have some colorful conversations with. When we come back on the 11th Inning Podcast with Kolko and Zim, we'll welcome in our buddy, Jason Werth. Welcome back to the 11th Inning Podcast. Dan Kolko, Ryan Zimmerman, and we are joined now by a man who is a racehorse owner, founder of 2-8 Racing, owner of Icon Racing LFG, host of the Off the Rail podcast,
Shut up,
and
man.
full-blown media member, Jason Werth.
I'm media.
Jason, you're full-blown media now.
I can't believe it. I'm media. You started it last year at the where were we? Tampa Bay.
Yeah, you joined me and Franny in the booth.
They're like, you got a credential? I'm like, yeah, I'm media, and I didn't know that media park's on like the other side of the moon.
They don't get treated well. No, not in Lot A.
I get it.
No Lot A.
I get it. Nor should they.
Yeah.
Jason, good to see you, buddy.
What's up? Where were you guys last weekend? I missed you. Big weekend.
We were actually just talking about how it's on the list to get down. I've heard so many good things about how much fun it is, what there is to do down there, what a scene it is.
Yeah, good
For those who might not know, we're talking about the Kentucky Derby. We need to just
wait till I'm not running in the Kentucky Derby to come. Good idea. I'm sure I'll be back next year. No big deal.
Yeah, I was going to say, you just do it every year, so we'll just come next year when you have a horse in the Derby, right?
2 for 2. I said I'll never be back. I never be back, and there I am back with a $70,000 turf horse that I own half of that ran next to last. Way to go.
Hey, but you're in, man. You're in it.
They can never take that away from you. You ran, and this one. So, Jason, for those who somehow might not be aware, you had a stake in a horse 2 years ago that won the Belmont Stakes. It ran in the Derby. And then you ran that horse in the Belmont, and Dornoch went on to win. And then this year, you had a larger stake, a 50% stake, in Flying Mohawk, who had never run on dirt before, was a turf horse, and qualified for the Kentucky Derby. And there you were, 2 years in a row, running a horse in the Kentucky Derby, just like the blink of an eye after getting into this space initially.
A little bit different this year with owning half of them, and look, you get when life gives you an opportunity, you take it. Charlie Manuel told me one time, if you get the hammer, make sure you use it. So we took a swing, we missed. We'll go back to the turf, but if you go back and watch the race, if you once you get into horse racing, you start watching like the race and what the jockeys are doing, what the horses are doing, and there was a lot of he was in a lot of trouble. There was you had mud getting kicked in his face for the first time. I talked to the jockey Joe Ramos. Great story with Joe Ramos. He said on the backside, he was just getting a lot of kickback. He'd been in trouble a lot. He was okay, but he asked them to go, and he spit the bit, which basically means it's like the horse being like, "F you, I'm done racing." So that's when he went like all the way to the back of the pack, and he didn't grab onto the bit again till like about 2 furlongs to go, which was the race was over for him at that point. So it's interesting once you get into it how finicky these horses are and how cool of athletes are. It's like they race once every 6 weeks, and it's some days they got it, some days they don't. He didn't like the dirt, so we'll go back to turf, and it was an incredible experience. Kentucky Derby, man. So it's like the Super Bowl and the World Series and the Stanley Cup all wrapped up into one day. 2 minutes actually.
Yeah, 2 minutes. But how did you get into all this stuff? We talk about, everyone asks me, what are you going to do when you're done? Or now that I've been done for a few years, they're like, what are you doing? And, I still have
hanging out with Dan. With Dan.
Yeah, I've always wanted to host a podcast with Dan Coco. I've made it now, man.
Me too.
But
I'm on here with you guys.
Look at us go. But you kind of told me the story, but were you always interested in horse racing, or what was sort of like, who did you meet, or how did it happen where you got into it? And obviously you're full-fledged into it now, and it's been well publicized how you've kind of fallen in love with just the sport of horse racing and the horses and just the process of what these horses go through.
Yeah, so I started playing golf. When I got done playing baseball, I started playing golf with some guys, and they own Florida Breds, and they kind of took me under their wing, showed me like how to do it. That's how I got into the sport. And then I bought a piece of Dornoch, a couple years ago. You buy these horses when they're 1, and they don't like the Triple Crown year is when they're 3. So you got to wait like almost 2 years, a year and a half for sure, before you figure out who they are. I mean, it's wild. So there's, and it can be not cheap. Also, it's like sometimes you get into a bad one. You're like, well, let's set that money on fire. But when you get a good one, it's like even a halfway decent one, you run in these races. I think the thing about it for me, and Zim, you probably when you're done playing, there's no other way to create that like game day feeling, the rush of like competing, winning, losing, like all the build up to the game, the post game, all that stuff gets taken away. It's like you can't really recreate it. I went to my first horse race when I owned a horse, and I walked into the paddock, and I'm like, all of a sudden, I'm like, my skin doesn't feel right. I'm like, what's wrong? And then they get the riders on the horse, so the jockey talk, the trainer talks to the jockey, and they talk about their plan. You're listening. You're like, yeah, like all right, like let's go. And then the jockeys get on the horse. They go out and they get them warmed up on the track, and then all of a sudden you're like ready to like rip your like clothes off and like just coming out of your skin. Like get in the gate. You just want to get in the gate. It's like you're losing your mind. And that's for like a low level race. That's like a claiming race at Tampa on like Tuesday. It's like race 5 and a claiming race or something, And then you run in these big races, and then all of a sudden, they get into the gate, and like there's tons of people there. It's such a big day, and all of a sudden the gates open, and like you're feeling like you're back on the field again. You're like cheering your teammates on. I tell people like when they come around the stretch, it feels like you're playing in a playoff game. and it's bases loaded. You're down 2 in the ninth, and your buddy rips one into the gap, and you're like you're on the field like jumping around, like waving the guy around from first. You're like, come on, and then like that's the type of emotions you feel, and there's no other way to recreate it. For me, for us, when we're done playing, then that I've found. I mean, maybe you get into some big golf matches over there at the old men's club on the other side of the highway. But I mean, for me, this has been something that like makes me feel alive again. Makes me feel like I'm competing. Then we've had success with some horses, so it's like I just deal with Icon Racing because it's really hard to compete, believe it or not. It's really hard to compete in this sport with sheiks and billionaires and, like old money and Kentucky Blue Bloods and all this stuff. Like, so what we're doing is we're creating a fund essentially and putting together a bunch of money, and then we're going to go buy horses and try to compete at the highest level. I learned with Dornoch that I own 10% of Dornoch. It didn't really feel different to me that owning like 100% of a horse or 1% of a horse. It's still the same experience. You still get the emotions and all the feels and the ability to compete at the highest level again. It's just it's crazy. You guys should get into Icon Racing. What are we doing?
I was going to say, it kind of sounds like a good way for people to get into horse racing. You don't have to commit a ton of capital. You can have, like you said, 1%, 2%, 3% of a horse, and you go through all the same feelings that you just talked about. And
100%.
And it is true. Like, that's the biggest thing. Everyone asks us, what do you miss most about the game? And it's 100% the competition. You versus that pitcher in the ninth inning. Like, you can't replace. There's nothing in, I call it the civilian world. There's nothing in civilian world that basically, that you can legally do that kind of gets to that. I mean, when you're in front of 50,000 people and it's you versus another guy to win or lose a game, I mean, that's why we love to play the game.
Sure.
So finding something to do that, it seems like, your boys are doing it with you. Julia's there. Like, it seems like your family loves it too. Like they're in on it.
It's it's such a great sport, but then the ability to do it with like the people you want to do it with. I tell people when you win a big game, in baseball you do it with your buddies and it's great and you share this great moment and like you won in 2019, I won in 2008, and that moment will always be there for you and those guys, and you'll have that bond for forever. Like that's a special bond. And you do it together. But after the game or when the game's over, you wave up to your family and your friends in the stands. And maybe you see them in the tunnel, 5, 10, 20 minutes later. And you go to embrace them and you try to recreate that moment of winning, what it was like, that sheer like, what's that big word, Dan? You got big words. Like
joy?
Elation? Yes.
Yeah, elation. Elation's a good one.
Like just
that's a good word.
That crazy emotion. But you go to recreate it with your family, and it's kind of there, but it's not the same. In horse racing, you win and lose with your people, your family, your friends, your wife, your kids, your dad, your mom, like the people you want to do it. And when you win, I don't know if you've seen the clip from the Belmont, like you get to grab onto your kids, like your parents, your best friends, and then go
or
crazy.
Sean Kelly.
Yeah. Or Sean Kelly, and go crazy. Sean's a partner in Icon. He was fired up when he heard I got into horse racing, being from Louisville. But I dragged him to the Belmont and we won. So I'm like, all right, I got to keep you around, So
well, it's funny. I texted Jason to ask if he could do this podcast the week after the Derby, knowing that we could recap what had happened and whatever. And his response was yes, but I might be in Ibiza. And then he said, but I might be dead, but yes. So if you guys had shocked the world and won the Derby this year, I mean, who knows what would have happened in the life of Jason Worth and company.
Well, I would have won a little bit. I put some on Flying Mohawk.
Yeah,
Don't get me wrong.
As did I.
Every time. You got to pull with the boys.
Now, if you didn't bet the Belmont, you had a little FOMO. Now you're like, well, we better sprinkle a little more just in case. Yeah. Tell me about it. I ended up after everything, we did dinner and it was just depressing. It's like losing the World Series, And so I ended up having this great idea, like, I don't know, 2, 3 in the morning. I said, hey, there's a casino right down the street in Indiana. Let's go and try to win our money back. And we did. We smashed them until about 5:30 and got all our money back. So it was a great weekend all around. I'm still alive. I'm still here, Dan. We didn't get to go to Ibiza or the moon, but we lived to fight another day. We got some nice horses coming with Icon, so I want to keep this thing going, man. It's just too much fun not to try, and I think it's a great sport for retired athletes, but really for anybody. It's like it can be a lot of fun.
And going to the race as well, like Zim, this is actually one thing that I've experienced that you have not, so I'm going to rub this in your face a little bit. But 2 years ago, I went to the Derby with some friends who were from Louisville, and I knew Jason was there, and I texted him, and he was like, come down to the owner's box, meet me here. I was like, Jason, they don't let me walk down to the owner's box. Like, that's not how this works. He met me and my now wife at the top of the owner's box. He told them that I was Walker Bueller. And they were like, oh, yeah, come on in. And one security guard, this woman, like, asked to take a picture with me and Jason. And she, like, sent it to her son, who's a big Dodger fan. I was like, just wait a few minutes before you send him that. I'm going to go down to the owner's box. Then you send it to him. But it's such an amazing experience. And there's, what, Jason, 150,000 people there in one venue at one time. And there's all the races leading up to it. And then, we're in there in the owner's box having some tequila shots before the big race. And it's just like, it's such, it's palpable, the adrenaline that everyone is going through, whether you're, you just got a $2 flyer on one of the horses, or whether you're an owner, like everyone can be a part of the joy and the excitement of that day.
Yeah, it's wild. So 2 derbies ago, Mage won, and Mage was full brother to Dornoch, and that was before we knew what kind of horse Dornoch was. So when Mage won, we had to weasel our way into one of the owner suites. And so when Dan was there, I was like, you got to come down here. This is amazing. The only way you sit here is if you have a horse in the Derby. So for the last 3 years, I've sat in the winner's circle suite. That year, we just happened to be in the right place, right time. Got some tickets, and then we wristband gamed Dan down there. We keistered him in, and he won. Dornoch runs 10th, and then Flying Mohawk runs almost dead last. But it was great, right? What an experience! You loved it. Yeah,
it was amazing. And you actually there's a tie-in between Dornoch and the Nationals, and I only want to tee you up for this if you're comfortable talking about this speech that you gave to the 2025 Nationals in spring training. You were down there for a few days, guest instructor, and they did this with each guest instructor that was there. They give you an opportunity one morning to address the entire clubhouse, and you gave a speech that I had people like reaching out to me afterwards and saying, I'm not kidding, Jason, that this speech will never be topped in terms of a message delivered to a team. And there's a tie-in to Dornoch with this. And if you feel comfortable, I'd love for you to share this with people.
Yeah, I was telling Zim a little bit of it. I gave Woodsy a hard time to start it off. We'll save that story for another day. But so... my point was that you don't really get opportunities in life and in sports, and like this is this team's one chance. This is some guys will go on to play long careers. Some of you guys will play together here for a long time, but some of you guys you might not ever play past this year. But this team that you have together, this is your chance. This is your opportunity, and my career. Most people don't know about like the stuff that happened to me when I was younger, like the injuries and getting released by the Dodgers and signing with the Phillies. Kind of like the surgery I had was super rare. There's only one guy in the world repairing my wrist, and I signed with the Phillies. Pat Gillick's the guy that drafted me in the first round out of high school in '97. He was the GM of the Phillies there when I went there in '07. And I didn't, I was rusty. I didn't play in '06, barely played in '05, so I wasn't playing great. And Michael Bourne and Shane Victorino go down on the trade deadline, July 31st. And they couldn't trade for a Beltran or somebody before the deadline because, the deadline's at midnight. So like they didn't expect to lose two guys, so their only option was me. And before the game, Pat Gillett calls me. It's like August 1st. He calls me in Charlie Mano's office and sits me down. He says, "Hey, so I just want to let you know this is your last opportunity in professional baseball." And I was like, "Wow!" Like, okay, wasn't not what I was expecting to hear.
I was going to say, what, did you go into that office thinking that was about to happen, or were you like,
I mean, I wasn't sure where it was going, but that's definitely not where I thought it was going. So
Yeah, thanks, Pat. Yeah, appreciate it.
well, I mean, it was so unfair. I felt like it was so unfair. Like I didn't choose to have this rare wrist injury. Like I was going to be the starter. I was almost rookie of the year in 2004. I was like 10 at bats away from qualifying for rookie of the year. Like, and then I get hurt in 05 and I don't play in 06. And now I'm having some hand issues. Don't play most of 07. Now this is it. This is my one chance. I haven't played in like 4 years. Like, so like it hurt, man. Like it really did. It bothered me. And I went out and I got 2 hits that night. I got 4 hits the next night. I hit like 415 or 414 in August. And we run down the Mets in 07. I come back in a platoon in 08. I had to fight my way back into the platoon with Jeff Jenkins and end up playing in the second half. We win a World Series in 08. I had 36 homers in 09. Had one of the best, I was like 6th in MVP voting in 2010, and I signed with the Nats. But I literally had this much chance, this much of a chance. And I told those guys this, and I was like, then, what do you do when you get done playing baseball? Like, what do you do? I found this sport, horse racing, and last summer I was in a situation with this horse named Dornock, my first colt, and he ran. He gets enough points to be in the Derby. He had a disappointing pre-Derby race, and he ran 10th in the Derby. And going to the Belmont, he was second to longest shot in the field. Everybody was saying he had no chance, and I thought he was going to win the Derby. If he didn't have the one post and have a bad trip, I think we had a horse that could have won. And everybody was like talking smack about him, and like he was just discounted, and like so a couple of days before the Belmont, I went and I go see this horse all the time. I give him peppermints and like you can like rub on and love on. He's this big nasty dude. He'll like bite you and rip your arm off if you get too close, but like you love him, right? And he's
like you.
Yeah. That's what I said. I saw a lot of myself in this horse. He's a big bad dude with a bad attitude, but he loved to compete. He really did. He showed up on game day, and I told him, I gave him a peppermint, and I got in there, I grabbed him, I gave him, I'm rubbing his hand. I'm like, look, man, this is your last chance in horse racing. If you don't win this race, you'll never be a sire. You'll never. They're going to cut your balls off. They're never going to let you, have kids. Your life, what could come, and like you make all your money when you sell your big horses to be stallions. So I'm like, tell him like this is it, man. This is your last chance, and I like bop him on the nose. And then I showed him the video from America's Best Racing, and it's like it's like a 4-minute video. I'm like talking about horse racing, and they got me mic'd up on the Belmont Day. You go look it up on America's Best Racing website. They actually used some of those clips for the Netflix documentary if you saw it, but it was cool. Like it shows the whole day and whatever, and then it shows us winning the Belmont, and like everybody goes nuts. And so the video stopped, and I told those guys, I said, this is your bop in the nose. This is your last chance. This is this team's last chance in baseball. This team will never have another chance. And I bought a bunch of peppermints on my way in from Walgreens, and I grabbed the bucket of peppermints. I started throwing them at everybody. So everybody got a peppermint and a bop on the nose, and let's see what they can do. Sometimes you need a good pep talk, and so I thought that was my chance to give those guys a pep talk. They saw the video of us winning the Belmont, and it's truly incredible to win a race like that and to win a World Series. And I just thought that was a good time to mention it.
Well, they've been playing pretty well, to be honest with you. I mean, and I think that's such a cool story because so many people think like Jason Werth, your career, nobody really knows that pretty much all of us there's some sort of inflection point in your career. Nobody really has a smooth career. I mean, there's a few out there that just
there's a handful of guys
dominate from the beginning, and it's easy and there's no failures. But I mean, that's why baseball is such a great sport. It's like you fail a ton, and there's always some point in your career where it's like you're down to your last shot. And I like that analogy that you use. Each year, that team only has one shot because never is there a team that just goes year to year to year. I mean, you could have a core group of guys that are on the team, but every year is its own team.
Every year it's different.
You have your own, some years are great, some years suck. Some year the group of guys are awesome. You love coming to the park every day. Some years it's a little bit more of a struggle to come to the park every day. And it doesn't even correlate with wins and losses sometimes. I mean, it's always better when you're winning. But sometimes the group it's not a fun group to be around. And when you have those special years,
it's always
it's when you
about
have
a team, right? You can put the best dudes, the most talented group of players on a team. If they don't get along, they won't win. You put 25 guys that get along great, that want to go to battle every day together, and they believe it, and they're all going in the right direction. They can beat anybody on any given day, and that's what's so cool about sports.
Well, that's what I tell a lot of people. Ask when you came over what you did or what, and I said, well, he kind of brought that culture that you created in Philly, and I mean, you guys had some badass teams, but you guys played hard, and you guys, like, you had that group that you were just talking about, like guys that competed their ass off, guys that, you had superstars, but those superstars played hard every day. And like when you came over, you kind of changed the culture, changed the way that we played around here. And we needed that. We had talent for sure, but you need someone to come over and kind of teach you how to win, because it's not easy to win at this level.
No,
it's every day. Like you just said, you could have the most talented team, but you knew, like we all knew when you were about to go play a team that was talented, but you're like, oh no, just play hard, wait them out. They'll give it up in the 6th, 7th, 8th inning, something like that. Like you knew those teams that you played with. And I think when you start to get that grit and that fire that you kind of brought over, that's when, I don't want to say when this whole organization changed, but it was definitely a culture change in the right direction.
Well, look, you were parts of those teams that were bad. I mean, there was,
there's no other way to say it. We were bad.
They were bad. And that wasn't, it wasn't because you guys had bad players. This was the culture of the organization. They were coming, the MLB owned them for a while before the learners got them. It took time to get them, going in the right direction. But it's almost like sometimes you need that catalyst, to kind of set the team in the right direction. And, whether it was me or Adam or when we both came over there, and then you kind of got, guys like you and Desi and here comes Bryce, and, we played on good teams in Washington. And it was, I really believe it was a culmination. You guys winning in 2019 was a culmination of all that work that we did, in 2011, that team in 2012, like going through all that nonsense we went through with Matt Williams, and then getting Dusty there to kind of set the tone, and then Davey comes in and he flops with the llamas or the camels or whatever, but then the next year, like, you guys get it done, right? And then, like, you had the right players come in at the right time. I mean, you guys, your post game celebration was everything. You guys had that magic. I remember coming in and sneaking in and seeing some of the win celebrations and sneaking out. I want to get a feel for it. I was like, this is awesome. You guys had it going. It's not easy to win. It's so hard to win. I mean, we had all those good teams over the year. We could never get out of the first round, but we had good teams. We had chances to get out of those rounds. And what's cool about those teams though? We beat the hell out of the teams we played. Like, they never went on to win. They were limping into the championship series because we were in dogfights. I feel like if we would have got through those series, we would have played those teams good in those championship series. I think we had chances, but what are you going to do? We played on great teams. There's no regrets about my time in Washington. I love being Washington National, and I'm so happy for you guys getting it done in 2019. I felt like I was part of the team. They're in Icon Racing. Dan, what are you doing? Get in.
This is the first time that you've proposed this to me. Okay, so we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it.
Zim's got too many kids. I get it. You're newly married. This is perfect for you.
Yeah, I also did not make ball player money, but we can talk about that another time. Ryan was telling me before we started about the bus rides for you guys, and you and the microphone on the front of the bus. Zim, I think you have some good memories from that.
I think this all goes to what he just talked about. Like, you make the team special. You make, like, the big leagues is an awesome place because you're playing big league baseball. But I've always said the coolest part of the big leagues is the travel, the staying with the teams, the making friends that are going to last for the rest of your life. So, I mean, quick story, J-Dub, when we leave DC, we always had to fly out of Dulles. And, you know, a lot of the times sometimes we're leaving on Sundays, but, you know, if you leave on like a Wednesday or a Thursday after a day game, I mean, you're looking at an hour and a half easy. When we got good, we started to get police escorts sometimes. And then if we didn't have a winning homestand, we wouldn't have a police escort. And
how that works.
Yeah, it's funny how that works. But anyway, he started like keeping track of like the homestand and important parts of certain games and certain series. And, you know, he'd get on the mic and, you know, you bury some people, you make fun of some people, you call out people that did good things like, hey, this guy grounded out to second base with nobody out and a runner on second base, got the guy to third base, and then this guy hit a sac fly, and that put us up 7-4, and we ended up winning 7-6. Like, that run mattered, even though it didn't seem like it mattered then. So, like, he did this for a little while, and then towards the end, he's like, hey, man, like, you're going to have to start doing the mic on the bus. And I'm like, I told Dan this before we got on here, like, that top 3 most nervous I've ever been in my entire big league career, because J-Dub's so good at it, and he's like, all right, man, you're gonna have to start doing this. So
it's time. It's time for you to graduate.
He just like a proud father, he made me step out of my comfort zone, and like, I was so nervous. Like, I would have Toscas, our video guy, like, keep notes on every game for every homestand. So I had like a scouting report going into the bus, and like, you know, we call some rookies up, and you know, and that's what's so special about pro sports is like we can do that stuff, and you become a family. And you know, we would do it on the road too. And when the road trip's done and you're going back to the airport about to fly home, you're like, all right, anyone got any cool stories from the road trip? Anyone do anything fun? Anyone, yeah.
Did you keep the hotline open? We always had the
hotline.
Oh,
yeah, we had the hotline. So, like, for the people who wanted to anonymously send me a text message and they wanted to air anyone's dirty laundry, my phone would be blowing up. And, you know, it was, that's.
Don't forget now, D-Rose started that in 2012. And like, so when he was there in 2012, and then when he was, you know, he did such a good job, and then it was like, well, who's going to take over in 2013? And I was like, by default, you know, I was just like, all right, like, I guess it's me. But yeah, I think it helps. The thing I always said was, if you can't for the rookies, if you can't get up in front of your teammates and talk on the mic and, you know, get razzed and you know, people burying you and whatever else, like, how are you going to be in the playoffs on the road and at Citi Field when you got 42,000 Mets fans like screaming at you? Like, you know, we're your teammates, we're your guys. Like, you get up here and show some confidence, because we're going to need you to have confidence, you know, in the playoffs in those big moments. And I think it's one of those things that it's good for the culture of the team. You know, some guys get butthurt, but other times it's really funny. You know, some guys get up there and do and change their career. I think Trey Turner turned his career around when he was like 0 for 3 on the mic, and he was getting booed, and he wasn't hitting, you know, and he was going into this hole. I'm like, dude, you got to do this, and he just refused. And I think Desi got him, and he did this Wolf of Wall Street skit, and like slayed it. And like,
not only did he do the skit, he he memorized it. Like, it's the Jordan Belfort like this, and like we started doing that as a team, and then like
team around.
Yeah, and then he did it on the bus probably 2 or 3 more times. Like, whenever we were kind of scuffling a little bit, Trey would go to the front of the bus, and we're just and like that. Those are the things that I think people don't understand. Like that's what makes pro sports special. And I say pro sports, but we're all biased to baseball. But I think baseball is on a different level because we literally do it every single day, and like there's no escaping each other really. So you have to learn to love everyone that you play with.
For sure.
But
Jason, you so many, on the field moments, big off the field moments with you here in DC. Now that you're, in this next phase of your life and you're doing, podcasts and you're all over the place, you're a media superstar. What do you get asked about more out of these four? The Kiss My Ass interview, the DC Strangler interview, the Men's League homer where you hit one 3 miles into the night, or 495 is not a racetrack.
I don't get the speeding stuff much unless it's like people that I know well. They'll bring that up a lot, but like for the most part, you'll hear the DC Strangler stuff like every once in a while. Obviously, the Kiss My Ass has some legs to it. I haven't actually. I'm gonna tell that whole story on on one of these next podcasts when there's some dead time, because the whole story is incredible. Like how Dusty gave me this ultimatum, told me they were going to release me, and that was the day that I had to. He was going to make a decision before we went on the road to the West Coast. Turns out it was his birthday. I was hot. So there's this whole story. You'll have to see. I'm gonna set it up. But the Men's League homer is of all the home runs I've hit in my life. As an amateur, spring training, big leagues, postseason. I had some big postseason homers. That one in L.A., Zim, off their closer, that was one of my favorite ones. I almost went out of Dodger Stadium off of a guy you can't hit. That was a good one. The 13 pitch at bat, in DC, that was a good one. That was a really good one. No, it's the Men's League game. It's the Men's League game in Arlington, the one game I played. So Matt Micah is a friend of mine now. He got shot in that Republican baseball. So the Democrats and the Republicans have played a baseball game for eons, right? And they practice for weeks to get ready for this game. It's hilarious. They take it serious. And so the Republicans got shot up by one day by a guy with he was spraying a bunch of bullets from an AK, and these two cops with 9mm got in a gunfight in the middle of Arlington and shot this guy. But my buddy Steve Scalise was the big congressman, and then Matt Micah and the female cop all got shot. So I was on the DL at the time. They're like, hey, will you go see one of the survivors of this shooting? So I go in. I think I'm going to go see Steve Scalise. And I walk in, and this dude's my age. He's as white as my hat. And I'm like, oh my God, this guy's almost dead. This is crazy. And I was like, hey man, brought him a jersey. Dude, get better. Get better, we'll bring you out to Nats Park. And he played baseball in college, and so Matt's a buddy now, and we get him out to Nats Park. He, next year he plays a little catch. The year after that, which was my last year, he actually took BP. Well, the year after that, I got done playing a little minor league ball for a couple months with Seattle. I was tinkering around the minor leagues, and I pulled my hamstring. I was like, "That's it. I'll see you guys later." And I get home, and a week later, Matt calls me. He's like, "Hey, I'm getting back on the field for the first time. I want you to come play in this game with me." And I'm like, "What?" I can't say no, I'm like, what are the details? He's like, it's in Arlington. It's a 30 and over league. I was like, God, how bad can it be? It's still baseball. I'll do the right thing for Matt. It was bad. It was as bad as you'd think it would be.
The batter's box in the video that you're going to get to, the batter's box is a foot below the plate.
Well, they haven't done anything to this field since the high school season. It's there's no grass in the outfield. I roll up in my death mobile, the one that put me in jail, and I'm like straight American Legion. I'm playing I'm playing music. I'm getting dressed out of my car. I put my cleats on. I walk across the concrete. Here I come, and I strike out my first at bat because they're throwing like 75, way below hitting speed. I'm still geared up for like 95. I just got done playing. I strike out, I ground out, and now these guys want to mouth me. These guys start talking smack. They're like, I don't even know who this guy is. And the guy goes 3-0, and the catcher throws the ball. He's like, let's go. Like, he didn't come here to walk. Like, he wanted me to see me hit. And the pitcher's like, I don't even know who this dude is. And he said it, and it pissed me off. I finally got pissed off enough, and I was like, all right. And I hit it over the lights, and I ran around the bases, and I was thinking to myself, this was the worst idea of all time. Like, what am I doing here? So I got done. I high-fived everybody, and I told the manager, who was like, I think younger than me, I said, I'm done. And I meant it. Like, that was the last time I'll ever play that stupid game. Like, I don't ever want to play baseball again. Like, I played it for my whole life. Like, I was done. But I went out. On top. See, I hit a tank to send me home.
Oh, I've seen the video. It was vintage J-Dub swing too. Nice flat bat path, a little bit of the recoil at the end. Vintage J-Dub.
That was a different kind of walk-off homer, I guess, Jay.
Yeah, it was. I should have pimped it, but I didn't want to show anybody up. It's kind of my that was my style. So that was it. But yeah, that's the story. It's a good story. That's probably what my career has come down to now. Dan, you've taken second place.
I mean, I'll tell a real quick story about the 495 is not a racetrack. That was, I mean, me and you used to live in Great Falls, so I know exactly where and how that could happen. But
right.
the best part of that story is, I don't know if people know, you did actually have to spend, was it 2 weekends in jail?
2 weekends.
Yeah, 2 weekends in jail.
Yeah.
And later on in the
county of Fairfax.
Yeah. Later on in the season, we're at BP one day, and like, you went and said hi to someone after BP on the field, and then we come back in the clubhouse, and I'm like, everyone's like, dude, who was that on the field? And he's like, oh, that's my cellmate from. He's like, you never know. You always have to have friends on the inside.
Oh, you do, yeah. I picked the two biggest dudes to make friends with when I walked in there. I'm not stupid.
Oh man, but I love it, man. I love it.
It wasn't so. I wouldn't. I don't recommend it, but it wasn't so.
If you have your choice of jail or not jail,
I would go with not jail. Yeah. It's more because you can't sleep in there. It's always something's going on. They got these loudspeakers. People are slamming doors. It's not summer camp by any means. But don't speed in Virginia. I do know that. I never thought I'd go to jail for speeding, but
here we are.
Other things maybe, but not
not speeding.
Zim, you want to do rapid fires?
Yeah, we'll finish you up. We finish up every guest with 5 quick questions. They're pretty easy. What do you call it, Dan? You call it
5 walk-off questions from Mr. Walk-Off.
There we go. Wow. That's why we got him here.
Me and Sean need a catchphrase like that.
Well, Dan's really expensive, so he can't afford that horse. I know what he gets paid to do these podcasts. But
that's the thing, Jim. It's not one horse. You get like a piece of like 12 horses. That's why it's cool.
Right, 12.
You gotta diversify your portfolio of horses,
exactly,
so you can.
That's right. Exactly. You
know. I know. But all right, here we go. The motto you live your life by, or you played by. Like, what do you wake up every day, and what do you like to say, or what would you tell someone?
I've got a few of these. I'd love to share the one that I think that I kind of live my life by is anything worth doing is worth overdoing.
That is excellent.
And in moderation is for cowards. That's kind of like
most interesting person you've met since you've been in the horse business.
Well, let me think about this. So Bob Baffert, I've met him a few times. I haven't spent a whole lot of time with him, but he's like this, lightning rod.
He's the man.
He's the man, I don't know him well, but I would say Bob Baffert. There's another guy. that's in, I call him Saratoga Bob, but Bob Edwards. He's a really interesting guy. Owns a horse named Carl Spackler, and so they wouldn't name him. They wouldn't let him name a horse named Carl Spackler in the U.S. So he got this horse a homebred, and like he sent it to Europe or something, but he got it named in Europe, or maybe because the mom's European. So he named the horse in Europe and brought it over here, and the horse is awesome. Like it wins every turf race, and like Bob's just this crazy guy that owned pharmaceutical companies that is like one of the coolest dudes you ever met. I mean,
love
horse
this
racing's
guy.
got a ton of characters. I mean, I don't know if you saw the Netflix documentary. Mike Rapoli, huge Mets fan. We ran him down last year in the Belmont, and then this guy Ivarone from Miami. He wears the suits with no shirt on underneath. Like this dude, I haven't met this dude yet, but like horse racing is full of characters.
I love it.
Jason, I literally have to run. I have to host the pregame show. I love you. Zim's going to take it from here.
Oh, boy, I got to do it by myself. All right, thanks, Dan.
I'll talk to you, buddy.
See ya. Nice
All right,
shot.
last few, and we'll get you out of here. He's too big time for us. He can't even finish the podcast.
That's so.
What's your favorite restaurant in DC, or your favorite restaurant to have a big league dinner at? Big league dinners, I feel like, are underrated and under talked about. But back in the day, if you were in DC, where would you love to go?
DC, my go-to DC is Fuel Lamar. I mean, the food, the service, the atmosphere, where it's at down there on the water. Is that considered the wharf, I guess, or not?
Waterfront.
Exactly. Waterfront.
Yep.
Fuel Lamar. I know you got a couple places now down there that I've been to that are good.
Yeah, we're dabbling with some restaurants here.
These things are cash cows. Hook me up.
Most influential teammate or favorite teammate. I guess it doesn't have to be a teammate. It could be a manager, someone in baseball that really. I think I have an idea of a couple people you might say, but I was interested because, your career is so interesting, and you played back in the day a little bit when there was such good people in the game. There's still good people in the game, but there was, it was a little bit more influential back in the day. But who? A really influential teammate, manager, someone like that you always would remember.
My man Charlie Manuel. I mean, I had to win him over. He wasn't easy. Like he put me. Most managers put you in situations to succeed. He would put me in situations to fail. See, he was so hard on me, and I had to win him over. He took me forever to get him to finally trust me, even after like the whole thing in 07 when I went nuts. Then he starts me in a platoon. He'd always laugh at me. But that team's. Like, you played against those teams. Those teams were so good in Philly. The Chase Utley, Jimmy Rollins, Ryan Howard, Pat Burrell was in 08, Shane Victorino. I mean, yep. I played with Raul Ibanez. Those were like big names. But the team I played on in 2004 in LA was crazy. It was like I played with Jeff Kent in 05 and JD Drew, and I played against Barry Bonds. Like, I mean, I played when I was young in that old golden era, But then when I came to DC, they got guys like you and Max and Bryce and Trey. Like, I mean, I played with some great players. We had Dusty was an awesome manager. I mean, the list goes on and on. I mean, I played with a ton of people that were so influential in my career.
Yep. No, we've been lucky to play with a bunch of cool people, and you always used to tell me about Charlie. I was going to guess that you were going to say Charlie, and some of those stories are unbelievable. I wish there was a book about him and Japan and all that stuff, but that's for another pod. We could talk about that for hours.
He told us the craziest story. We do a whole thing on the guy that owns that sushi place in San Francisco that Jeremy that played in Japan right after him. And we go to a sushi place just out of nowhere, and he's like, I know your manager. And like he would sit with us and tell us Charlie Manuel stories for hours. Like every time we go to San Fran, we like he was the two-time MVP in Japan. Like nobody even knows that, He
was the man, and then got hit. Didn't he get hit in the head by a fastball or something like that? And that was it, right?
Yeah.
All right, last one. Go-to karaoke song.
Turn the Page, Bob Seger.
God, I love it when people know right off the bat. So, I mean, karaoke, I've said this, and this shocks people because they think I'm the most boring person on the face of the planet, which is kind of what I was going for when I was playing. So
Right.
karaoke's
Boring's
become one
good.
of my favorite things to do now.
I
It's
love
so much
karaoke.
fun.
In the right setting, karaoke is amazing.
Right setting, right people.
Right people, yeah.
Oh, it's the best. But
The best.
all right,
Okay,
buddy.
let's get together and do some karaoke. Let's go.
Oh, I would love to. But hey, dude, thanks for taking the time. Congratulations with all the success with the
All right.
horses. And
I'm
maybe
gonna
we'll.
send you the investment deck again for Icon Racing this year. One of these years, you're gonna say yes. IconRacing.com. Everybody, let's go.
Hey, like you said, maybe it's been a good year at the restaurants. I'll just piggyback in and I'll own a couple horses next year with you, and I'll be at the Derby.
There we go. Now we're talking.
All right, brother. Well, I can't thank you enough. Always good talking with you, and hopefully we'll see you in DC soon.
All right, Z, you're the man. See you later, Dan.
Welcome back to the 11th Inning Podcast. Dan Kolko and Ryan Zimmerman. And as always, we're going to get to the mailbag now, Zim. People have been submitting more questions. 11th.inning@nationals.com, 11th.inning@nationals.com. I don't think I need to spell inning or nationals. I think you guys can figure that part out. Keep sending in your questions and your comments. This has been really fun for us to go through these and keep you guys involved on these podcast episodes. So thanks for doing that. Let's get to our first one, Zim, from Vic Celeste, who, this is a two-parter. We can answer, these kind of quickly, I guess. The first one is an interesting one. What was the dugout's reaction when Jonathan Papelbon choked Bryce Harper?
Well, I mean, first of all, let me make it clear that something along those types of lines happens usually once or twice a year within a season. Now,
On every team, you're saying, pretty much.
yeah, I mean, maybe not a fight or a strangle, but like there's
An incident.
2 to 5 incidents a year, I would say, would normally happen. Just because when you're competing at the level that we're competing at, when you're around the same guys as much as we're around each other
Yep.
for 7, 8 straight months, a lot of the times, men are not the most reasonable species out there, I guess would say. So just something would always happen. Minimum once or twice a year, maximum five or so times a year. So I don't want to normalize what that happened there, but something like that happens a few times every year. Now, not in the dugout.
Yeah.
It's usually taken away from where cameras are. That's why a lot of times you'll see things in the dugout, and then people walk down into the tunnel because they go make sure things are worked out where nobody can see it. So, but I mean, the reaction in the dugout, I think, you're kind of shocked, and then you're like, oh boy, we need to get these boys apart because that's
Two big boys.
two big boys. I mean, Harp's a big guy. Pap's a really big guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was at the end of that season when, we were fighting to try and have our playoff lives still afloat. Wasn't going well.
Yeah.
We had a lot of expectations that year in that second half. So there's a lot of disappointment and frustration and things like that happen. So, like I said, we're not the most mature species out of the group.
And then Jason, a few days later refers to Pap as the DC Strangler in that walk-off interview. So we had that to laugh about too. All right, second question from Vic is it difficult for draft picks to adjust to wooden bats from aluminum bats after getting drafted, and does this impact their first professional season?
So most of the time, college kids will have played in some type of summer wood bat league. Not all of them, but if you're in college for 2 or 3 years, chances are you've had some sort of acclimation to a wood bat. Now, high school kids are, I think, using wood bats a little bit more in practices and travel teams and things like that, but I think it would be a bigger adjustment for the high school kid. But then the high school kid probably also has a few more years in the minor leagues. And I think, honestly, the development and the organizations take that into account when they're watching them hit. You hear a lot of times, well, will his swing, transfer over to wood bat? Because, metal bats,
A little more room for error there.
a little more room for error, and it's just a different animal. So I think to answer the question, I think scouts kind of grade kids and look at kids with that in mind. And as far as college kids, I'd be shocked if the top picks for sure have played at some point in some sort of wood bat summer league. So there's been some studies on how they do.
Acclimation period.
Yeah. Yep.
Cool. Thank you to Vic. Next question comes from Joanne Wilson, who wrote us this question after Ahmed Rosario pitched in a game the other day, a career infielder on the mound for the first time in the big leagues. She said it looked like he was pitching to his kids very deliberately. I really enjoyed watching him. How does the team react when a non-pitcher pitches?
Well, I mean, if you're the team who has the pitcher pitching, you're getting your ass kicked. So you really,
It's not the best.
Not the best. And then honestly, like I've faced a couple. It depends on how your day is going, In every blowout loss, there's one guy that's like 0 for 6.
Right. That means a little bit more.
Someone's usually wearing an 0 for.
Yeah.
So, like, you're trying to get a hit because it doesn't matter. You doesn't matter who's pitching.
They all count the same.
You're trying to get a hit. I mean, Rendon that day against the Mets when he had the 10 RBIs, I think it was.
3 homers, 10 RBIs.
I mean, the last homer, I believe, came off.
A position player.
Yeah, I forget who it was, but, I mean, it all counts.
Yep.
For me, and this is why, like, the extra inning thing, if you have a regular season 15, 16-inning game where you blow through your bullpen, position players are pitching, a lot of people don't realize that a couple of those bullpen guys are going to be sent down the next day.
Right.
Because if this next game were to go into extra innings, you just need fresh arms. So those guys get sent out, and they're like, oh, yeah, we'll call you right back up. I mean, sometimes those guys don't get called back up. So I know a lot of people don't like the ghost runners. I know a lot of people don't like position players pitching, but, like, it can be meaningful for relievers' careers.
Sure.
So you got to think of it differently like that. For me, I don't know. I think when position players get in the game's already out of hand already. So I'm pretty indifferent on it, but it was nice to watch him, really get it in there.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think some people like it. Some people hate it. I don't really care.
Cool. All right. I'm going to have you read this next question from Sally just so that people don't think that I made this question up myself.
Okay. All right. This is from Sally Battleson. Did you ever think you'd end up calling games on TV? What's been the best part of working your way up in the organization since you started as a field reporter? It's been awesome to watch your career progress. Let's go Nats.
Thank you, Sally. And no, my mom is not named Sally. It's been really cool to end up in the booth over the last couple of years filling in for Bob. It's been a lot of fun. To answer your question, I don't know that I did ever envision myself being a play-by-play guy in the big leagues. There's only 30 of those jobs that exist in the world. It was always a dream. And I've just kind of enjoyed every step along the way covering the Nationals, going from one role to another, beat writer to sideline reporter to pre-post to, in-game stuff. They had me fill in as the analyst on occasion, which is, a little goofy for me, but, I'm like a utility guy. Put me wherever, I guess. But no, it's been really fun. It's been a new challenge. I think, and you've experienced this moving up there to the booth the last couple of years, I think people don't realize how challenging it is to narrate a live event and try and feel out the moment. And when are you dialing up the emotion? When are you playing back the emotion? You've got a producer in your ear that's giving you cues. You have to get promotional reads in. There's lots of components to it all. You have to work with your analyst or analysts, tee them up and make sure that the conversation is flowing smoothly. There's blowout games, which can be really challenging to call. So it is a big-time challenge, but I've truly loved it. It's been a blast for me. So thank you, Sally. Very nice.
Very cool.
All right. Our last one, Zim, that we'll get to this week, we had a lot that maybe we carry over some of these to 2 weeks from now. So thank you guys for all the questions again. This is not a question, it's a comment from Joel Eskovitz, who listened to our last podcast recording when we had Nicholas Backstrom and TJ Oshie on, and heard TJ Oshie tell a story about how during their Stanley Cup parade, somebody threw him a beer that went over his head and then hit someone in the, on the street on the other side.
On the other side of the bus.
On the other side of the
bus. Not like a gentle toss. This is 40 feet at least.
Yeah.
So a pretty good chuck of the beer can.
Let's get to this email now from Joel Eskovitz. I was listening to your most recent podcast, and my jaw dropped open listening to TJ Oshie talk about the one sad fan who got hit by a beer intended for him during the Caps championship parade. That fan was my then 10-year-old daughter, now almost 16, but I did want to put TJ at ease, as the beer did not in fact hit her, but instead landed in front of her. She still got a bit of a scare and got some of the beer on her, which is probably what he saw from his vantage point, but she still had a great time, and it did not ruin the day by any stretch. He sent in a video he recorded the exact moment that TJ was mentioning, and he said it was very sweet that TJ, A, remembered anything from that day, and B, cared enough to think of my daughter's well-being. How cool is that?
Did he scoop it up and then stone cold it?
He should have. That would have really capped it all off.
So that's the cool thing about the internet.
Yep.
And social media and whatever you want to call it.
And a medium like this, too, a podcast like this.
Yeah, how awesome is that person listened and then actually sent video proof of it happening. So like Dan said, thanks for listening. Thanks for sending these in. I mean, this is the stuff that's really cool. This is what we wanted out of this. Obviously talk baseball, but connect with you guys about other things and just DC sports in general. We've made so many memories and had so many cool moments over the last 15, 20 years. You guys deserve a place to share these just as much as we do.
Well said.
Yeah.
That's a great way to end it. Thanks to everybody for listening to the 11th Inning Podcast. Thanks to our executive producer, Wendy Bailey, our producer, editor extraordinaire, Nate Baker, and Olivia Taylor as well, helping us behind the scenes. Zim, this has been a blast. Looking forward to keeping them rolling.
Another good one in the books. Looking forward to the next one, and go Nats.
Go Nats. See you guys in 2 weeks. Take care.